host Joker here, and welcome to a brand new series here on Joker Productions titled How to Become a PC Gamer. We're going to be covering a lot of things in this series, and today we're going to be asking one very simple, important question: why should you decide to become a PC gamer? In the future, we're going to be going over the things you need to do to prepare yourself for an upcoming PC build. We're going to be going over how to choose your parts based on several different factors as far as your budget and what you want to do with this PC that you're looking to build or buy online. We're going to go over the pluses and minuses of both of those aspects, whether you should buy online or should you build your own yourself. What are the pluses and minuses of those? Should you get a gaming laptop? There's a lot of things we're going to need to cover. That's why I'm going to be doing this in multiple parts. But today we're going to be asking that one important question: why should you decide to become a PC gamer? And one thing I want to get out of the way before we go ahead and jump into the why you should become a PC gamer, to all my subscribers out there, I need to put out a very big thank you to all of you. I just recently hit a big milestone for me, 2,000 subscribers, a number I honestly thought I would never hit. To get that kind of validation means the world to me. I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. You guys are the reason that I keep going and keep putting out videos to see you guys react and make you laugh, and you know, whatever it is, whether you hate me or you love me or you just love to hate me, whatever it is, I don't care. As long as you're watching my content and it's impacting your life in some way, that makes me so happy, and I'm just glad you're still here watching, and I hope you continue to watch for years to come. But now, let's go ahead and get into the whys. Why should you become a PC gamer? There are several bullet points we're going to go through. The very first one that we have to get out there, I'm sure a lot of you already know this. It might be important to some of you, to some others it's not as important. To me, it is very important, and that is the graphics. The graphics on PC are better. There is no questioning this. When you compare even the next-gen consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, to the PC, the graphics on PC are always going to be better. You cannot debate this. They're going to be better. If you have the hardware to run them, they're going to run at a better resolution, they're going to run at a better frame rate, and they're just going to look prettier overall. The reason is that these consoles have limitations. They only make a new console every 8 to 10 years or so, if you're lucky. So when they come out with that hardware, that's what you're stuck with. You're not going to grow from there. You're not going to get any more powerful than whatever you got until Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo or whomever comes along and says, okay, now you can have some more powerful hardware and your games can look a little bit better. And also, let's go over the fact that the hardware that's in these next-gen consoles that came out just this past November, they're already outdated PC hardware. Most of the games are actually not even running at 1080p and 60 frames per second, especially on the Xbox One. Yes, there are some games that are running at 1080p and 60 FPS, but for the vast majority, they are not. For the ones that are, that's fantastic. I'm actually going to be picking up a PS4 next month for the remastered version of The Last of Us. That's going to be running at 1080p and 60 frames per second. That's fantastic. I think that is the baseline of how games should run. You should be aiming to run every single game at 1080p and 60 frames per second regardless. That should be the baseline. 30 FPS is, in my eyes, unplayable. And for most PC gamers out there, they would agree that that is not a playable frame rate. You are not getting an enjoyable experience. There are very few exceptions to this rule. South Park: The Stick of Truth would be probably the only exception I would make and play a game at 30 frames per second, but that is more so that the game can play into a particular art style where it actually works better at 30 frames per second. But for everything else out there, you want to get at least 60 frames per second, and 1080p is pretty much a standard now. How long have we all had HD TVs? How long has 1080p been in our living rooms with Blu-rays and all that sort of stuff, and Netflix running in 1080p, you know, if you have the fast enough internet connection to do so. 1080p has pretty much been commonplace in the household for the last 6 or 7 years, I would say. And there's really no reason that these next-gen consoles shouldn't be pumping out every single title at 1080p and at 60 frames per second. And the reason that I say that 1080p and 60 frames per second is really the baseline is because consoles are now just being able to do that. On the previous gen, some games like Call of Duty did run at 60 frames per second, but the native resolution on those games was much, much lower, like 720p or even lower sometimes in the multiplayer. So native resolution of 1080p is a new thing now to console games for the most part, and 60 frames per second is pretty new to console games for the most part on these current gen games. And like I said, not all of them are even hitting that. Some games like Watch Dogs came out that ran at 792p and 30 frames per second on the Xbox One, 900p and 30 frames per second on the PS4. There's no reason for this. What they should be doing is dialing down the graphics a little bit so that they can get 1080p and 60 frames per second. That's another beauty of PC gaming, is that you can choose what's more important to you. Do you want to have the pretty graphics and the high resolution, but you don't mind having a low frame rate? That's your choice. With a console, you don't have a choice. You're going to be getting the frame rate and the resolution that the developers tell you you're going to get. And that's it. No questions asked. I could decide, hey, you know what? I don't really care too much about resolution on the PC. And I could lower a game down to 720p in order to make it run better so that I can keep the graphics quality up without losing frame rate. And that's just one thing on the PC that you can do that you cannot do on console, because it is like being in a prison. Having a console is like being in hardware prison. You get the hardware that you get, and you're stuck with that hardware for a very long time, and there's no way out of it. You have no option in this. You have no option to change the graphics quality in the game to say, you know what, even though I'm stuck with this hardware, I would rather have a higher frame rate, so let me lower down the shadow and texture quality so that I can get a smoother gameplay experience. You guys don't have that option on console. So that is just one of the benefits of PC gaming, the graphics and the performance. And yeah, that's a big one right there. And if that's not important to you, then maybe one of the other things is. The second reason why you should come to PC gaming is just sort of a continuation of the last topic I covered, is the evolution of hardware. PC hardware is always growing. The consoles, like I said, you're waiting 6, 8, 10 years for a new console to come along to be able to put out the kind of power that you need to run these more powerful and graphically intensive games. With the PC, there's new graphics cards coming out almost every single year. There's new CPUs coming out almost every single year. And that's not to say that you need to upgrade every year. You don't. That is a common misconception about the PC. People will say, oh, you need to be upgrading your graphics card and your CPU and all this stuff all the time. That is not the case at all. You can build a decent gaming PC for $1,000 to $1,500 that would last you about 3 to 5 years without really having to upgrade much. You might want to get another hard drive at some point to put a little bit more space, or you may decide, you know what, I want to get a better graphics card, and you can go out and just buy a better graphics card, and warranting that your power supply has enough juice to power it. You can go ahead and just throw that in your PC that's a few years old and give it a few more years of life, even though you've built a PC a few years ago. I have several friends who are still running first generation i7 processors in their computers that they built 3 or 4 years ago, and they've recently gone out and just spent like $400 on a graphics card and instantly got, now they're going to get another 2-3 years of life out of that same computer with that simple upgrade. Something that you have an option to do. That's the big key here with PCs. You have options. You're not locked into this console prison that they put you in for hardware. You can decide how much or how little you want to get out of the system. And you don't need to be constantly upgrading your hardware. As long as you build a half-decent rig to begin with, you should be fine. If you build yourself like a $500 or $600 gaming PC, which can be done, it can be done. If you really don't have a budget and you can't buy a super expensive PC, you can get your foot in the door for around $600 with a reasonable PC that'll be able to play all the modern games, and you can probably get 60 frames per second on like lower medium. And for that, I would use a graphics card like a 750 Ti. That's a new graphics card that just came out on the market. It's only $150, and it's incredibly powerful for that particular price point. Obviously, graphics cards can range all the way up to $3,000 for something ridiculous like a Titan Z. But, for the most part, gamers aren't buying that. Gamers are buying graphics cards in the $200 to $300 range for the most part. I think the vast majority of gamers, that's what they're looking to spend. Some people spend more. I have two GTX 780s, which cost $500 a piece. That's over $1,000 in graphics cards. But that's my option. I chose to do that. And I also didn't do it all at once. I built my computer, and I decided later on, you know what, I want to get a little bit more power in this thing, because I want to future-proof my computer some more. So I'm going to get a second graphics card because I had the extra money. Something you can't do with a console. You can't do this. So that's just another reason, why to go with the PC is the evolving hardware. As the games get prettier, you can improve your computer to go along with that, so that you can run these beautiful games and keep them running at ultra, and still having a great game experience and having good frame rates while running the games on the best graphics options possible. Another important topic we need to talk about: price. That's a big thing that people will say to you. PC gaming is more expensive than console gaming. And at first, that may be the case. If you want to get yourself a decent PC, I would recommend spending around $1,000 to $1,500, somewhere in that range. You can get a pretty kick-ass PC for $1,000. You can get a better PC for $1,500, though. I mean, you get what you pay for in the long run. You're going to get what you pay for. You can get a $1,000 PC, and you could be running every single game out right now at mostly ultra settings and getting 60 FPS at 1080p. You can improve that computer a little bit by throwing in like an SSD for a boot drive, which will make your whole computer run faster. Or you can get a little bit more expensive graphics card, which, by the way, I'll go over in a future video, but your graphics card should be the most expensive thing that you put in your computer. I'll go over that in a later video. But, yeah, yes, the computer parts are more expensive to begin with, but in the long run, it's cheaper because games are actually cheaper on the PC. When you put a game out on Xbox One or PS4, these companies are having to pay a fee to Microsoft and Sony to have their games on the console. That's why you see brand new games that come out are $60. Like the new Transformers game that just came out this month, which is absolutely atrocious. Quite possibly the worst game I've ever played in my life. That game is $60 on console. That is fucking theft. They are stealing money from you at that point. It's ridiculous that a game costs that much. Games on the PC, newer games, you're looking to spend usually $50 for a day one release. But if you're patient, you can actually get games a lot cheaper, or if you know where to shop. You can go to like CD key websites and find games cheaper for like $30, $40 on day one. You can also use VPN services to shop on websites in different countries, which might sell the game cheaper. An example of that would be Watch Dogs. Recently, just before launch, you could go on Origin India, and Origin is a service by Electronic Arts, if you're not familiar. It's like Steam, but it's owned by EA. You could go on the India version of that website and get Watch Dogs brand new, prior to launch, pre-order it, if it was $22. The same thing happened with Battlefield 4. When Battlefield 4 came out, you could go on Origin Mexico and get the base game and premium for about $50 total for both. Now, these companies don't really want you to be doing that, but it's not illegal either. You can easily do this, and even if you're not doing that, down the line, all of these games are eventually going to be cheaper. Have you ever seen a Steam summer sale? We just got over having a Steam summer sale. They do these sales about 3 times a year, I believe. They do a Steam summer sale, they do an autumn sale, and then they do a big holiday sale as well, where you'll see big AAA games come down to like prices of like $5. Like over this recent Steam sale, and in the past we've seen games like the new Tomb Raider, Hitman Absolution, Metro 2033, Metro Last Light, all selling for $5 or less. Go down to your local GameStop, try to pick up a used copy of Tomb Raider. Tell me how much it cost. It's probably between $30 and $40 used if I had to guess. It's certainly not going to be $5. So in the long run, the PC is going to save you a hell of a lot of money when it comes to games, and that's not even including all of the great games that are out there that are free to play. There are good games out there like War Thunder and PlanetSide 2 that you can play completely for free without ever having to spend a single dollar. Yes, you can spend money to get upgrades a little bit quicker and level up faster and maybe get some cosmetic items that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. But for the most part, those games are completely free to play. They're not pay to win. You don't need to pay just to have, the super OP weapon or something like that. There are games out there that do that, but the vast majority of us PC gamers try to avoid it. And the next one, which is a major thing, and some of you are probably going to watch this and you're going to disagree with me, or you're going to say, hey, it's just a matter of preference. I can assure you it's not a matter of preference. The keyboard and mouse is better for gaming. Now, that's not true for all games. Racing games, fighting games, definitely better on a controller. No questions asked. I have an Xbox One controller that I use with my PC for racing games. For fighting games, I don't really play fighting games, but if I did, I would use a controller for it. And also open-world driving games like Watch Dogs or Sleeping Dogs, I use a controller for. I'll probably wind up using one for GTA 5 when that comes out on PC, because that's going to be amazing. Can't wait for GTA 5 on PC. Which will bring me to my next topic, which is modding. We'll get into that in a moment. But keyboard and mouse is better. It's better. No questions asked, it's better. Especially for first-person shooters. If you're big into Call of Duty or Battlefield, there is no reason to be using a controller. It's not a matter of preference. It's a matter of precision. You can aim more precisely with a mouse than you can with a controller. Controllers have what's called a dead zone. You need to move the analog stick a certain distance before it registers that movement on the screen. And it's just not as precise and not as quick either. If you want to spin all the way around, even if you have the sensitivity turned up to the max, you have to push your analog stick all the way to the edge and wait for your guy to spin around. With the sensitivity settings that I have on my mouse, which is 6400 DPI, and the sensitivity settings in-game, I can turn around and do a 180 with literally moving my hand this far. That's it. A flick of the wrist. If you want it to be slower, you can. You have that option. If you want to move your mouse all the way over across the mouse pad before it moves, that's your option. Personally, I like to have low movement so that I can be quicker and more precise and aim faster. Some people honestly don't know how I do it. Some people say 6400 DPI is absolutely ridiculous. They're like, how do you snipe like that? How do you shoot like that? It takes some getting used to, but I am used to it. Using a mouse and keyboard for the first time will take you some getting used to. At first, it's going to feel foreign. You may even hate it. When I first switched over to PC gaming, I made two very big mistakes. The first thing was I got a gaming laptop. Big mistake. I'll cover that in a moment. Actually, I'll cover that in the next video for when you're choosing your parts and all that stuff. I'll cover why gaming laptops are not a good idea if you're looking to get into PC gaming. But that was my first mistake, was I got a gaming laptop. Absolutely regret it. One of the worst purchases I've ever made in my life. And like I said, I will cover that later. Second regret was when I first got that laptop, I actually thought and tricked myself into thinking I would be able to play Battlefield 3 and compete with people on the PC using a controller. At first, I chalked it up to, hey, maybe these people on PC are just way better than people on console, which I actually do believe. I believe that PC players are better than console players. I think if you were to take PC players playing with mouse and keyboard and had them playing against console players with their controllers, the PC players would win every single time, no questions asked. And the reason for that is just that it's more precise. And think about it like this. A controller uses analog sticks. That's analog. Computers use a mouse and software that's digital. When was the last time you used any device in your life that was analog? Anything. Name a device that you still use today that's analog besides a gaming controller. There isn't anything. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you got like an analog calculator laying around. I remember my very first cell phone was analog. It was an AudioVox cell phone. It was absolutely horrible. But for the most part, everything nowadays is digital. Why would you be using some fucking ancient technology like an analog thumbstick? It's not as precise. There's loads of videos and articles out there you can go and watch or read that will explain this to you in further detail and better than I can, probably more scientifically. But I can just tell you from my experience, it is better. It took me about 3 to 4 weeks to get used to the mouse and keyboard. I practiced by playing single-player campaigns. I played Call of Duty 2 campaign all the way through, and I played the Battlefield 3 campaign all the way through. At first, it was very, very hard for me to aim, but by the end of it, I was comfortable. I started getting better and better and better in multiplayer. At first, I was absolutely atrocious. I was going like 0 for 50. After a few months, I started slowly bringing my KD up, and now I consider myself to be an excellent gamer on the PC as far as competitive first-person shooters go. When I'm playing Battlefield 4, when I was recently playing Battlefield Hardline in the beta, I was always at the top of the scoreboard. I am extremely fast at aiming and accurate, and I've tried to go back and pick up a controller for an FPS. I tried playing Titanfall on my little brother's Xbox 360, and I was completely lost. I couldn't aim for shit. It was just, I felt like I was just dragging my gun across the screen with the analog stick. It felt so unprecise, not to mention the fact that a controller has a lot more input lag than a mouse and keyboard. When you're using a mouse and keyboard, the input lag is almost nil. It is very, very low, especially if you're using a mouse with a high polling rate like the Razer Mamba that I have, 1000 hertz polling rate. That means that it sends the information to the PC 1000 times per second. It's much, much faster than what that setting would be on a controller. I don't know the exact number, but it's faster on a mouse, I can assure you of that. So let's just get that out of the way. Mouse and keyboard is better for competitive shooters, no questions asked. And finally, for why you should become a PC gamer, it's just better. Overall, it is better. You can't beat what a PC can do for you. A console is just that. It's a gaming console. Yes, they're starting to add in features like Netflix and Hulu, and you can even do some streaming now and capture game footage right on your console and upload it to YouTube, or even use Twitch, which they sell as features, and you actually have to have a subscription-based service to access these things. There's no subscription on the PC. There's subscriptions for games like World of Warcraft. I honestly don't play MMOs, but for the PC, you don't need a subscription to use Netflix. You have a PC, and you can use everything on it. You can use it as for a regular computer for surfing the web, unlimited internet. You can go to any website you want. You can watch as much porn as you want. You can download shit. You can watch Netflix. You can download your games, play your games. Everything, anything you can possibly think of can be done on a computer. Consoles are extremely limited, so whatever services they happen to offer on that particular console within that subscription base that you're having to pay for. That's just another reason why PC gaming is also cheaper in the long run. You're not having to pay an annual subscription fee. I believe an Xbox Live subscription fee is like $60 a year. That's something you're never going to have to pay on PC. You're also, like I said before, you're paying more for games on the console than on PC. PC games are cheaper day one, and with things like Steam sales and sales that are constantly going on year-round, it's just cheaper overall. The experience is better. The games run and play better. The community is better. You don't have to worry about 12-year-olds running around on Call of Duty and throwing around every racial epithet that you can ever possibly think of, things that you would never think of saying in real life. These type of people are few and far between on the PC. They are still there, but they're very few and far between. For the most part, the PC gaming community as a whole is much older and more mature. And that's really all I have to say about why you should get into PC gaming. I'm going to wrap the video up now. Be sure to check back in for part 2, where we're going to discuss the things that you should be doing before buying a gaming PC. Questions that you should be asking yourself, like what you want to get out of the PC, what your budget is, things like that. That'll all be in part 2, which will be posted in a few days. So be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment below. And as always, if you have any questions about anything at all, whether it's pertaining to this video or something else entirely, whatever questions you got, go ahead and ask them. I read every single comment that gets posted on my channel, and I will do my best to respond to anything that needs a response. If you have a question, I will respond. I will read your comments. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check back in for part 2 in a couple days. I'll catch y'all slunts next time. Ta fucking Rizza!